Mohammed Haji is currently before Parliament's Justice and Legal Affairs Committee for vetting. We've seen previously the members of Parliament introducing themselves. Let's now listen in to that vetting happening now in Parliament.
And you are likely to have been nominated by that panel. Your name being forwarded to the President, and he has forwarded your name to Parliament, National Assembly, for us to invoke the provisions of the Constitution and to vet you. That is why we are here. We want you, and I want to take you through a number of questions, after which I will give my colleagues also to raise a number of issues. And as I said earlier, this is an interactive session between us and you. This is the committee which will be oversighting you through, if appointed by this committee and by Parliament, in the office. So it's a very, very important committee. We want to understand a number of issues in this vetting process. I would like you to introduce yourself. Tell us about yourself, your full names. We want to understand your professional aspect, like your academic qualifications, work experience. I know you've given us that in the questionnaire we gave you, but you realize that now you are facing Kenyans, and these proceedings are live. So you are not just addressing this committee; we are addressing the Kenyan people in this vetting process. So tell us about yourself, your family background, the educational and professional qualifications. These are requirements in the Constitution. Your work experience, employment, present engagement, where are you working currently? And we will want you to be as detailed as possible in respect of those issues. So you can take the floor.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. With your permission, I have a few remarks to make in relation to the question that you've posed to me. And I will read it out.
Proceed.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Thank you, Honorable Chairman and distinguished members of the committee. I'm deeply honored to appear before you this morning. It is indeed a great privilege to be nominated to serve as the Director of Public Prosecution for the Republic of Kenya, a responsibility I accept with humility. Honorable members, I have dedicated most of my adult life to public service. I'm honored and grateful to His Excellency, President Uhuru Kenyatta, for the nomination to serve the Kenyan people in yet another role. I'm also humbled to have received overwhelming support and encouragement from Kenyans and law enforcement community since my nomination. Honorable Chairman, before I highlight aspects of my professional qualifications and experience, with your permission, kindly allow me to give a brief background of myself. I was born on the 3rd of July 1973 in Malindi, Kilifi County. My loving mother was a high school teacher, and whose kindness and generosity to those in need, even during those times she did not have much, is legendary. My loving father was a career civil servant who served this country as an administrator, starting from the lowest level and rising through the ranks in various positions with great honor, dedication, and integrity. Honorable members, my career has been guided by values inculcated at an early age by my parents, to whom I owe so much and who are blessed to see me participate in this vetting today. From them, I learned values of integrity, hard work, selflessness, service to humanity, and discipline. Values that will continue to guide me in the office of the Director of Public Prosecution should I be confirmed by this honorable committee. Having been civil servants, my family constantly moved across the country. I began my formative years in school at DEB Nyahururu Primary School, subsequently attending from Standard 1 to 8 in different schools across the country, such as Nakuru, Mombasa, Nyeri, Eldoret, and Garissa, to name but a few. This exposed me to the rich diversity of our Kenyan cultures, allowing me to appreciate at an early age our interdependence as a society. I am proud to say that I am a husband and a father. Whenever I look at my family, my children, they represent millions of law-abiding Kenyans who daily deserve to be protected from criminal elements. When I leave every morning, they remind me of why I choose to serve within the justice system. If confirmed by this honorable committee as DPP, they will be a constant reminder of why we must ensure that the wheels of justice roll seamlessly, efficiently, and that justice is served to all. I'm an advocate of the High Court of Kenya of 19 years standing. I began my public service as a state counsel in the office of the Attorney General, a foundation that has served me well over the years. My public service continued as a member of the then National Security Intelligence Service, as a legal officer, where I was privileged to help set up the legal department. I served in various other capacities, including as a deputy director in charge of administration, and on to my current position as a deputy director in charge of counter-organized crime. Honorable members, as deputy director in charge of counter-organized crime, my work includes advising the Director General, NIS, National Intelligence Service, on legal and strategic matters pertaining to organized crime. I head coordination of interagency operations on organized crime, investigating, analyzing, and compiling evidence for prosecution. In this role, the collaboration with the Office of the Director of Criminal Investigations, prosecutors, the judiciary, and other investigative bodies has over the years allowed me to develop a very broad, deep, rich, and diverse experience in the criminal justice system. This accorded me a vantage point through which I have seen the opportunities and challenges within the criminal justice system, which is a vital perspective necessary to be an effective director of public prosecution. Over the past 19 years of service, in a career that has spanned various departments and sectors, my experience as a public officer in various capacities prepared me to understand the unique needs of investigators, prosecutors, and law enforcement officers. My experience as a state counsel, a legal officer, investigator, analyst, and administrator responsible for efficient coordination and utilization of human, financial, and material resources has equipped me with strategic and administrative leadership needed in this role. My collaboration over the years with various law enforcement and investigative agencies, prosecutors, and the judiciary has allowed me to play a central role in operational leadership. My regional and international exposure through partnerships, training, and joint operations accords me the insights and skills needed to inject some 21st century practices in public prosecution. Honorable members, we are at a pivotal moment in the history of our country. We face complex and rapidly evolving threats. As an analyst, I am concerned to note that the last 10 years has seen a rise in new crimes like terrorism, drug and human trafficking, cybercrime, financial and economic crimes that threaten the very existence of our country if left unchecked. And of note, the rise of mega corruption exacerbates all these threats. Corruption weakens our justice system to effectively and efficiently deliver its constitutional mandate. We must not lose perspective when discussing existential threats that could easily destroy and dismember our nation. Our political divide must be put aside for once. We can no longer afford to define everything per our biases or political outlook, especially in the face of these threats. That is what the Kenyan people demand. That is what the taxpayers and law-abiding citizens deserve. And that is what we must do as a country. Honorable members, if accorded the honor of becoming the Director of Public Prosecutions, my fidelity to our Constitution and the ideals it espouses, for us in public service shall be my guide as I lead my team at the Office of the Director of Public Prosecution. I also intend to pursue a very specific set of goals in delivering the mandate of this office. I will be keen on recasting, retooling, and relearning within the ODPP to ensure efficiency, effectiveness, and accountability. For recasting, honorable members, I envisage a 3C approach of collaboration, cooperation, and coordination, the purpose of which will be to reshape how ODPP operates. With this, honorable members, I intend to create synergies that will work seamlessly to bring about an efficient, effective, and accountable institution that is critical within the criminal justice system. I will collaborate and coordinate with local and international institutions and partners involved in the governance, justice, law, and order sector. I will enhance cooperation with the National Police Service, investigating agencies, the judiciary, and key stakeholders such as the National Council on Administration of Justice, the Law Society of Kenya, Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, Kenya National Human Rights and Equality Commission, civil society, amongst others. Under the retooling, I will endeavor to strengthen, enhance, and grow the existing infrastructure in the following manner. By championing a criminal management system that is holistic and integrated. I envisage a system that will link the whole criminal justice chain from investigators, prosecutors, the judiciary, including the correctional services. I will operationalize Section 52 of the ODPP Act and establish a prosecution inspection team that will ensure quality assurance, best practices, and will monitor and evaluate the prosecution services offered. I will establish an internal affairs section aimed at enforcing the code of conduct to ensure integrity and restore public confidence in the ODPP. Honorable members, in view of the complex and rapidly evolving crimes, the traditional approach to litigation must change. It is important to relearn our way of doing things at the ODPP. I intend to equip our prosecutors with the requisite skills and capabilities necessary to deliver their mandate within a global context. To this effect, I intend to establish a prosecution practice institute, with your help, offer continuous legal education and adaptation of international best practices in the country. Anyone who seeks to learn and improve his or her skills in the DPP's office will get a chance. Honorable Chairman, I have briefly enumerated my experiences, knowledge.
How more time?
I'm finishing.
You're about to finish?
Yes.
Yeah.
Honorable Chairman, I have briefly enumerated my experiences in knowledge, partnership, and association, which I know will be suitable for the position of DPP. I have the energy, drive, and vision required to transform and lead the ODPP into a more efficient, effective, and accountable 21st century institution. In conclusion, honorable members, I want to speak to the Kenyan people. I will always be on your side. If confirmed by this honorable committee and the House, I will strive to be the Director of Public Prosecution that you deserve. And my pledge is to lead the Office of the Director of Public Prosecution in honoring my oath of service every single day that I will be in office. The Constitution will be my guide. Thank you. I look forward to engaging with your father.
Okay. Now, members, you realize, I think you are advancing gradually in terms of this vetting process. This is the next nominee who has taken time to make his opening remarks. And I think this is the way to go. Of course, at some point, some of the questions members will be raising, you already addressed, but reading and answering the questions may not necessarily be the same. You've taken actually 16 minutes in your opening address, and I think this is very, very important to hear from you. And your last point is that you promised Kenyans to be on their side. The last comment. And I think Kenyans are happy to hear that. As you look forward to being approved by this committee, that is what Kenyans would like to see. A servant for all Kenyans. So I want to thank you, Mr. Mohammed, for that opening remarks. And I would like to ask another 2 questions, then I give my colleagues. How do you think your professional and educational background has prepared you for the challenging task ahead of you if approved as the DPP? I know you've read how this will help, but let members also hear from your own explanation. How do you think that very broad exposure, worked with the Haji's chambers, you've been with NIS for some time, and in charge of counter organized crimes, those are very serious departments. How then do you think that will help you in discharging your functions as a DPP if appointed by this committee? And then I would like you also to mention to us the membership of the association you belong. I hear you are a member of LSK. Do you have any other professional body that you are a member, especially given your expertise in the areas you've worked?
Thank you, Honorable Chair. My professional background, first of all, Honorable Chair, I would like to emphasize that I'm an advocate of the High Court of Kenya for the last 19 years. I have been a state counsel officer. Yeah. I have been a state counsel with the Office of the Attorney General. I have been a legal officer with the National Security Intelligence Service, and I've rose through the ranks within that organization. I was also fortunate to be a deputy director in charge of administration, and currently as a deputy director in charge of counter-organized crime. In addition to being an advocate, I am an investigator. I have investigated complex cases. In addition, I am an analyst, and as an analyst, I have analyzed trends in crime. I have had a vantage position as an NIS officer and an advocate of the High Court of Kenya, and the privilege of seeing the criminal justice system from a bird's eye view. Honorable Chairman, the skills of an investigator, an analyst, and an advocate of the High Court of Kenya, I believe, brings a lot to the table. And it will guide me as a Director of Public Prosecution internationally, Honorable Chairman, and members of the committee. We have seen that the skills of investigation, analysis, and a lawyer or an advocate helps in understanding how the criminal justice system should work. My association with the various investigative bodies, the fact that I have investigated and prepared evidence for prosecution, my association with prosecutors and the judicial arm of the government gives me that vantage position and a wealth of experience to bring on board to the office of the Director of Public Prosecution. Honorable Chair, in the second question that you asked was about memberships. I am a member of the Law Society of Kenya. I'm also a certified public secretary member. And those are the two memberships that I have, considering the organization that I came from. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let me now allow my colleagues to raise issues and questions of concern which they want you to address. Honorable Lako. Honorable Lako is one of our very senior member of the House. If you are doing 19 years of practice, he has done, I think, 30.
40.
He has actually done 40. So you can see that you are proud to have him around, just like all the other members.
Chair, you make me feel very old.
Funny enough, he doesn't look very old, but yeah.
Mr. Maji, thank you very much. Looking at your CV, I have no doubt at all that you are widely experienced in the intelligence sector. Apart from the 1 year that you spent at the AG's office, I don't know exactly which department you were in for 1 year post-qualification. Have you been able to keep up with the trends in modern prosecutorial skills in the DPP's office? And in particular, the last amendment to the Criminal Procedure Act in 2012 that introduced plea bargaining in courts, which has not been utilized lately, but which, its chairman, incidentally, I think that what we are getting in the media is where live plea bargaining in Garissa, your home county in Garissa, where plea bargaining camels are equated to life. This is the latest one that is coming from the media. So have you been able to keep up trend with the modern trends, and what is your view about plea bargaining? And what do you think can be abused in the clause that amended the Criminal Procedure Act as it is? Thank you, Chair.
Just to add to what Senior said, I'm sure you read the Standard today. Mr. Mohammed, did you read Standard today, the newspaper? You had a chance to read Standard. Now in the first page, and I think you go and read it after here, alternative justice. Man pays 40 camels, equivalent to 4.4 million, to settle a murder case in an emerging trend. Exactly what this member is saying. This is a murder case, and some people, I think, in some county, you noticed and decided to, to resolve the issue, 40 camels being given, worth 4.4 million shillings, and the accused person ought to be now released. So please, it's a very serious issue. And I think even the High Court has already pronounced itself to that issue by Justice Lesit in one of the rulings recently. We want to allow 3 members so that you answer their question. Shamala? No. Honorable Soipan, sorry. Soipan.
Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, so we take 3 and then you respond.
Thank you very much, Chair. I think the issue raised by Honorable Lolago and yourself is very important, and we would like to hear Honorable Mr. Mohammed what your view of this is, because I think this is the farthest it can go. They are very far. Can you hear me clearly? Yes. And from the newspaper article, and even from knowledge out there, I know there has been such cases where, some capital offenses are actually put back in the hands of elders to decide, what kind of punishment would be meted out on the accused persons. We have seen this also happening with rape cases, some other criminal cases, and defilement of minors, I think it really borders on a delicate space where we might be actually occasioning victims to injustice, where we take out some very serious criminal matters in the hands of, traditions and cultural practices. I think it belittles, the kind of impact some of these crimes have on victims. So I think Kenyans would be eager to hear from you whether we should allow for these trends to go on or, stop them.
Thank you. Honorable Soipan, the third member, so that we allow him to. Honorable Mumani.
Yeah. Thank you, Chair, for giving me this chance also to ask one or two questions. To ask the nominee one or two questions. Mr. Haji, you've made it clear to the committee that you worked at the office of the DPP for 1 year and you left. Oh, the Haji, okay. Then I will move away from that line of questioning. Number two, you realize a number of employees, particularly lawyers who work in the office of the DPP, normally don't work in that place for long because of probably the bad conditions. What are you going? Which steps are you going to take so that the people you employ, you make sure that the people you employ stay in that place for some time? Number two, Mr. Haji, we realize Kenya, in this country, we have quite a number of political affiliations, and your father is a senator who is affiliated to one of the formations. Do you think your father's position will influence you in discharging your duties in any way? Thank you.
Now you can take up those, but before you do so, we have a friend of the committee again who has just come in. Sophia, introduce yourself.
Thank you, Chair. My name is Sophia Abdinur, Member of Parliament for Ijara constituency from Garissa County, a friend of the committee. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, from the same county with the nominee. Okay. Moral support. Okay. There was another member here. Oh, she left. I hope she will come back. So, Mr. Mohammed, maybe you answer those already comment.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. And thank you for the moral support, Honorable Sophia. The question put across by Honorable Olago, which is a very pertinent and important question, in relation to plea bargaining, and also whether I'm appraised with prosecution developments currently. Honorable Olago, I want to assure you, and Honorable Chair, that I am appraised sufficiently, and even more so with my current position as the Deputy Director in charge of counter-organized crime. But I would also like to address the comment by Honorable Nyamwai about my experience at the Aegis Chambers. Yes, I worked at the Aegis Chambers for a year, but I also, if you look at the CV, at my CV, I've also worked as a deputy head of the legal department at the National Security Intelligence Service, and the head of the legal department at the National Security Intelligence Service for over 10 years. And most of my assignments within the NIS. It was National Security Intelligence Service then, now it's NIS with the new dispensation. I have always dealt with legal matters in my various capacities and positions. On the issue of plea bargaining, there are new rules that were formulated by the Attorney General in February this year on plea bargaining, and they outline very clearly how and when plea bargaining can be used. But before I go further, I think I need to explain what plea bargaining is and what Section 137 of the CPC, the Criminal Procedure Code, outlines. Is that you use plea bargaining as an alternative dispute resolution mechanism, but more so you use it when it will benefit the prosecutors when you're prosecuting a case, and to strengthen your case against accused persons and criminals in this case. The way I see the application of plea bargaining should be used is basically on petty crimes. The issue that Madam Honorable Soipan brought about capital offenses, I don't think plea bargaining should be used for capital offenses. For petty cases, yes. And for cases, for example, where you have conspiracy issues coming up, then you can very well use plea bargaining as an important tool to be able to unravel. And I'm thinking here about corruption cases where they can be used effectively, because with corruption cases we've had a big problem. When you have conspiracy, you have a number of people, but you cannot pin down the conspirators of a corruption offense. And I think plea bargaining, if used adequately, will help in fighting corruption, for example. And a good case example is Nigeria, where they've used instances of plea bargaining. So I want to assure this committee and the Kenyan people that we will look at the merits and demerits of using plea bargaining according to the rules that have been put across. Furthermore, under Section 137, you cannot use plea bargaining without a concurrence from the judiciary, whether it is the magistrate or the High Court judge. So there is checks and balances when it comes to plea bargaining. And in fact, the plea bargaining guidelines, I think, if I'm confirmed, I will attempt to ensure that they are in line with sentencing guidelines, and that we have clear ways of how we are going to apply them, both from the prosecutor's point of view and also from the judiciary and the magistrate or the High Court point of view. Thank you, Honorable Chair. I think there's one more question. I tried to address Honorable Olagos and Sophia, but there's...
That?
Yes.
I read something about 40 camels turning to 4.5 million. You've addressed that issue on the same... So in what we are saying really is what we are reading here is actually not proper. That's your position? Yes. Okay. Any other? I think you wanted to...
There's still a question.
Okay, finish that one, then we allow the next...
Thank you. The question of number of employees leaving the DPP. I think, yes, I think it's a concern.
Yeah, we wanted to allow Shole and Senior to console first. You are done? Okay. Proceed. Yeah.
Thank you. On the issue of DPP officers and employees leaving the DPP, it's a big concern. It's an issue, and I think it's an issue that has two fronts, in my opinion. One, the emoluments, the salaries paid to prosecutors is below what other colleagues are paid within the criminal justice system, especially if you compare it with the EACC and the judiciary. And we have seen a lot of instances of officers within the office of the DPP living for greener pastures because of issues of emoluments. Secondly, Honorable Chair, there is the issue of work environment. I think the work environment within the DPP is wanting. For example, in Makadara, officers are housed in containers that are not up to standards. Even if they're containers, they should be habitable. There should be electricity. I have noted also from interactions, the office of the ODPP or the ODPP lacks basic tools. Prosecutors just recently got diaries. You know very well, and I think most members here are lawyers, that diaries are an important tool for lawyers. They don't have basic things like briefcases. And these are issues that demoralize officers and make them want to look for greener pastures elsewhere. The issue of budget also comes in. I think there has been inadequate utilization of the budget. I have noted that the ODPP only utilized 67% of the budget, and over 33% was returned to Treasury. That is unacceptable. And I think these are issues that I will look into, Honorable Nyamoy, to ensure that the work environment is up to standard. But I will also come to this committee and the Salaries and Remuneration Committee and Treasury to ask for increments in emoluments and salaries. Lastly, the issue of political affiliation. I want to assure you that I will not be influenced. The Constitution will be my guide. And the rule of law, natural justice, is what I will adhere to. It is a blessing and a burden sometimes to carry the name, but I think I am here today not because of my father, but because of the hard work that I have put in place over the years, my integrity, and I believe I will not be influenced. Thank you, Honorable Chair.
Thank you. I want you to. I think the question was a very good question by Honorable Mumanyi. It's not Nyamoya. It's Honorable Mumanyi. Just for the record. And you know, you said it is sometimes a burden and a blessing, but I want to say indeed it is a blessing. I think what you've told us is critical. You will be guided by the Constitution, by the rule of law, and natural justice. And that is a very, very important. That question is important. Kenyans would want to hear that kind of an answer. Let me now allow again Honorable George Murugara to raise issues. Then we call the next person.
Okay, all right.
Let us, I think there's a combination of what we have answered. You've answered the first question and what Vice Chair has. Let her raise the issue, then you can quickly respond before we go to the third round.
Yeah, I'm listening to you talking about the budget and your priorities in terms of the available money, and that you feel it is wrong for the office of ODPP to return funds to Treasury after allocation. Obviously, that is underutilization. You may be aware, and I hope you are, that this financial year, the ODPP got 2.54 billion shillings, and they had requested for 3.5. So that is 2.4 against their request of 3.566 billion, having a shortfall of 1 billion. I would like you to tell this committee, from recalling from where you left, regarding your priorities and, you know, the staff leaving, basic tools like diaries and maybe laptops and such, to just make their work efficient. What would be your priorities, and how will those priorities inform your request for increase of the budget? Noting where we are now, the amount we have, and the priorities that you think will help in terms of efficiency that you have referred to, what would you prioritize? We want to hear clearly, you know, a clearer priority line with that kind of budget.
Okay. George?
Thank you. Thank you. Bwana Haji, you have spoken at length regarding integrity. And in fact, you've said it's because of integrity, the leadership you have provided to your former employer or your current employer before we take you to the next level. This is what has brought you this far. Just one or two questions regarding integrity. As far as your office is concerned, what you've been doing, to what extent do you think your experience, the work you have done there, reflect issues of integrity? Also, you are taking up a higher office. You are getting called to a higher office. How do you intend to show yourself as a role model to everybody else in the Republic, in accordance with Chapter 6 of the Constitution, which is very important to your role of leadership and integrity? Corruption, the dragon. It's sometimes a monster, other times a giant, which we say we slay or we kill or whatever we do to it, but it never seems to die. What is your strategy intertwined with integrity to confront corruption in some of the departments or offices in the Directorate of Prosecutions, Public Prosecutions? That's all.
Thank you, George. The last one. Let's finish with this line, Honorable Munene. Then Kamoto, you'll be the next in the next round.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, Mr. Haji, I think you have told us in your opening remarks about how you want to deal the relationship between you or the office of the DPP and the other investigative agencies. But I want you to outline clearly, because we have had very serious crimes, corruption in the court of law, and you hear the judges mostly saying prosecution was poor, and the prosecutor passed the buck to the investigators, and it's like that chain. How do you intend to enhance the relationship between the office of the DPP with the investigative agencies like the police, KRA, Anti-Corruption Commission, and all that, so that the criminals don't get off the hook because these arms or these departments are not working together. And lastly, tied to that, you have told us, and it's very clear that you have always been a public servant since I think you finished your school. In discharge of your duties, have you been involved in practices which depict tribalism? Tribalism, you know, is an animal in this country. Let us have your maybe comment or your views about that. Thank you.
Yes, you can answer those.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Honorable Vice Chair's question on the budget and the issue of the shortfall of 1 billion.
You continue. We have so many friends today. There's another friend of the committee who has just walked in. Can you introduce yourself, Mheshimiwa?
Yes. Thank you very much. My name is Shakil Shabir. I'm a member of Parliament for Kisumu East and a friend of this committee.
Another.
Thank you. I seem to be very fortunate. Having a lot of support.
No, I'm being told it may be not moral support. I'm presuming moral. It may not necessarily be moral support. But at least there's a member who's a friend of the committee. We will know whether it is moral or not later. But proceed. Thank you, Vice Chair.
I hope it's moral. Thank you. So the question by the Honorable Vice Chair on the shortfall. If I understood you well, yes, it's, you know, this is the farthest extent. Okay, yeah, on that question, and I think if I understood you well, if you give the additional 1 billion, what are the priorities I will give? Am I right, Honorable? Yeah, okay.
You would have to convince Parliament.
Yes.
On the priorities that you intend to take.
Yes.
For the addition.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Not the other way around.
Okay. Thank you, Vice Chair.
I think really whether there's an addition or not, what are you going to start with?
Okay.
Yeah, whether there will be an addition or you still have the 2.5 billion.
Yes. Thank you. First of all, with any budgets, what you have usually is policies. And once you formulate policy, then you come to what we call the midterm planning, MTP. And this is where you plan and you agree with your team what areas need prioritization. And this then needs to be married with the MTF, which is the midterm expenditure framework, and you come up with a budget that aligns with the plan and the policy that you have put in place. And I think, Honorable Chair and members, my agenda of recasting, retooling and relearning will be the priority that I will endeavor to put in place. And especially in retooling and relearning, one of the priorities will be the establishment of a prosecution practice institute. Maybe I will take a little bit on that to explain why that will be a priority for me and hopefully for the ODPP. Honorable members, we employ young lawyers and advocates into the ODPP. And immediately they come from law school, they're employed and thrown into the depths of water and asked to deal with complex cases, to prosecute them, when they have very little skills. So the Prosecution Practice Institute is going to be a priority. And I believe with the help of this committee and Treasury that it will be something of importance for us to put in place. In addition, emoluments and salaries will be key. As I had earlier indicated, again, I will approach this honorable committee and House, the SRC, Salaries and Remuneration Commission, and Treasury, for us to relook at the salaries that we are paying prosecutors. And I think Honorable Kihara was here last week, and it was interesting for him to raise the fact that we have state councils, we have prosecutors at the ODPP who are expected to prosecute cases of corruption that runs into billions, yet the salaries that they have is peanuts. Of course, this is a fertile ground for officers to be corrupted. Therefore, I will come to this House and this committee to ask and prioritize in the area of emoluments. Of course, the other thing, Honorable Chair, is the ODPP has an establishment of 1,200 prosecutors. However, we only have employed 962. Sorry, the DPP, I'm saying on, if confirmed, but the ODPP has only employed 962 officers. Out of that, only 500 are prosecutors. We have over 118,000 cases before the courts to be prosecuted. If we were to come up with a figure, roughly out of 500, roughly you'll have each prosecutor handling 200 cases, if it is 118. I think that is not humanly possible. It will have an impact on the quality of prosecution, and therefore, honorable members, I will also come and request and prioritize on employing additional prosecutors to help in prosecuting some of us. These are some of the areas that I will prioritize. On the question by Honorable George Murugara, the issue of integrity, what extent do I reflect issues of integrity from where I came from? I think the NIS is an institution that has been created in conformity with the Constitution, and it is bound by the Constitution and issues of integrity. And I think even more so than any other government department, issues of integrity in that office is key and important, because you cannot collect intelligence if you're a man of questionable integrity, and even rise to the ranks that I hold today without integrity. How will I be a role model in accordance with the Chapter 6 of the Constitution? Honorable Chair and members, I think I want to assure you that I will subject myself to oversight, and this committee is one of the oversights in the Act and in the Constitution. And I will put other mechanisms. And under my retooling agenda, the operationalization of Section 52 of the ODPP Act requires that the DPP establishes an inspection team that will inspect prosecution services, and I will establish that. And my thinking is that I will get prominent legal personalities from Kenya and other common law jurisdictions. And I will also include stakeholders to be part of that inspections team, so that we can have reports even to this committee outlining the services of the ODPP and the DPP himself. What is my strategy on confronting corruption? Again, this takes me back to the retooling agenda, the section 52 that I've just enumerated. But also, I intend to establish an internal affairs section within the ODPP. We have very clear code of conduct. It is well enumerated. However, the code of conduct does not outline what happens when you breach it. And I think with the internal affairs department, I will, within the ODPP, ensure that it deals with issues of corruption and any other disciplinary issues that come therein. Lastly, I will try and champion the criminal justice, a criminal management system, and not just a case management system, but a criminal management system, so that a committee like this one and the House itself can be able to tell through data where the real problem is. Because I think every office that comes will want to point fingers to the other institution. But I think with a robust, integrated and holistic criminal management system, we'll be able to pick where the problem is and deal with it decisively. Those are a few of the strategies. The question by Honorable Munene in relation to relationships, I think it brings me back again to my agenda of recasting, which will redirect the operations of the ODPP and the 3 C's that I brought about of collaboration, coordination, and cooperation. I will ensure that the advantages I have associated with investigators, I think that will bring good blood between the ODPP and the National Police Service and other investigative arms that I have worked with. And through collaboration, I believe we will be able to work, we will be able to create synergies between the different arms of the justice system. One thing that from my association with the international law enforcement agencies that I've seen is prosecutors working very closely with the investigators. And I think section 5.4 of the ODPP envisages that prosecutors will play a role in investigating by guiding investigations. And I will endeavor by working with the Inspector General, the Director of DCI, sorry, and other organizations like KRA. Thank you, Honorable Chair.
Thank you very much. I will allow Kamote to be followed by Sholei and the friend of the committee. Speaker, you will follow thereafter. But before we allow those members to ask questions, Mr. Mohammed, there is a letter we wrote to you on 16th of March requesting you to come with a number of documents. The original ID, your academic and professional certificates, original. You have them with you, your ID and all those. Now I would like you to pass that bundle of documents from Honorable Kiai. As you answer those questions, members, we want to go through them, so that we. So Kamote, then Sholei.
Thank you, Chair. My issue really comes from the background that we've seen prosecution losing cases which maybe they ought to have won in court, and to some point it all boils to the competence of his prosecutors, of the prosecutors. So in his opening remarks, Mr. Haji did talk of values, and I want to refer him to Article 232 of the Constitution, which provides fair competition and merit as the basis of appointments and promotions. The same article also provides for gender balance, regional balancing, and even ethnic balancing. I think it's important to know how Mr. Haji is going to balance this so that we can have prosecutors who are going to challenge the defense lawyers, so as we can reduce the number of cases that we are losing. The second question is that Mr. Haji's role is a very crucial role to the Republic. We know that EACC, which we oversee in this committee, has been coming here and they've been putting the blame on the DPP. They've been saying that they have cleared with their files, but because they have no prosecutorial powers, these files are lying in the DPP's office. I do believe that his experience, maybe he's going to share with us how he's going to manage that, so that we can have success both in his office and EACC as a department. Finally, Chair, because he is going to handle people who have cases and who have corruption suspects, I think it is important for us to know Mr. Haji's financial worth before he goes into this office, and also know his businesses, his sources of income, because he might come face to face with his business partners or people who are in his line of business who ought to be prosecuted. Thank you, Chair.
Mr. Chairman, I think we had set up a precedent that we won't request the candidate to say that publicly, because we already have that information in the form that has been filled, because that's an invasion of privacy. And I think we made that clear as a committee.
Yeah, we've made that, but I would like the nominee, because it's been raised, you will have to make a decision. I will not disclose to you what we have agreed as a committee, but you will see how best you can answer that question, because we already have you had the questionnaire that you fill. So let us not make it an issue. I agree with Sholei, but the member will feel free, the nominee will feel free to answer that question.
Because I think, Mr. Chair, if I was never on that seat, I would never want to have to say it publicly.
Yeah, which is okay.
So
you will make
I think it's something that
you will make a decision.
Yes, and I think Mr. Momai, the honourable member, does have the file in front of him.
Yeah.
And one day, I'm looking at it like one day, if I'm sitting on that seat,
it's okay.
I do not want to be able to explain my businesses and my net worth in public on camera.
But let him answer that question the way he wants to answer.
Chair,
the member.
With your kind permission, if I may, issues of declaration, as I said, I think we must also ensure the protection of the right of the privacy of the candidate.
Correct.
But furthermore, I think the question is more about would there be in case of a conflict?
Yeah.
How would you handle
Okay.
that particular matter?
I think he will answer.
Yes.
Listening to the member from the beginning of this vetting, I'm sure he will know the best way to answer in a manner that will protect his position as agreed. Okay, now the third person who was to follow, yeah, Mugaga, Honorable, yes.
From your introduction remark, I realized that you've not spoken about real active courtroom experience, and the job that you are taking up, it entirely involves court work. Don't you think, in the absence of the court experience, in the first few years in the office, you are going to entirely rely on the advice and directions of your juniors so as to acquaint yourself with the job that you are taking up? Then secondly, as you take up the job, in Zambia, we've seen the ODPP or the DPP himself attending court and prosecuting personally some of the specific cases which have high public interest. That aspect has been missing in your predecessor. Do you intend to do things the way he was doing, or do you intend to do it differently in consideration or in reference to what is happening in other jurisdictions like the one in Zambia?